Martin Luther Jr. weekend, we remember Martin Luther King, who searched for the end to oppression. He searched for a world where we would judge one another on the content of our character and not on the color of our skin. In the words of Michael Curry, which might be applied here, he was looking to transform the nightmare that this world is for so many to the dream that God has for it. And in that quest, he gave up his life. In that quest, he gave up his life. Well, what are you looking for? I've asked that question over the years as I've preached on this text and others which would suggest this kind of question. And I get all kinds of answers, wonderful ones, like happiness, joy. Anybody here looking for joy? It might be that you are looking for peace. I had this conversation with a trusted colleague last week, and he said, I'm looking for the peace of God which passes all understanding, but I know that I must find the Christ in here to meet, and he did this, to meet the Christ in you. Great response. Sometimes the things that we are looking for are kind of more ordinary. I'm looking for a job, right? I'm looking for a way to make ends meet. I'm looking for healing in my body or my soul or my mind. I'm looking to make the world a better place for my children. What are you looking for? So here's the thing. In our culture, there's a preponderance of voices that say, here, look here, I can give you what you are looking for. We see it in political campaigns, right? I can give you what you're looking for. Elect me. But I think the thing that we get, the preponderance of voices in our culture, comes from advertising. Do you know that the average number of ads that the average American is exposed to in a day? 4,000 to 10,000 ads a day. Now, the 10,000 is probably in cities like New York, where all you have to do is drive down the street and be exposed to a lot. But 4,000 as a minimum? Well, if you watch TV, or you read the newspaper, or you read a magazine, or you drive down the street, or you see an ad on the side of the bus, or you get onto Facebook, you may not see them, but those voices say, here, I have what you are looking for. You remember the old Sears tagline, the good life at a great price? So if you're looking for a good life, well, you can just trot on down to Sears, which I understand there used to be one near here. Or if you are looking for some self-esteem, you might pick up a bottle of a L'Oreal product because you're worth it. And not too long ago, there was an advertisement for a cruise line that promised the experience of absolute heaven. So even our language of the Spirit has been co-opted. Calvin Klein makes a perfume called Eternity, right? We are promised eternal answers in a temporary package. And advertisers, while we say, well, I don't really believe that. I mean, I know that a cruise is an absolute heaven, but advertisers know it works. And it just washes over us, promising that if we go to this restaurant, we'll have a heck of a good time with good friends, and we will laugh and find joy and enjoy a good meal, right? It's not quite that easy, though, is it? Where do you look for what you are looking for? Those voices call us to temporary and temporal solutions. Sometimes we look to the past or to the present for what we're looking for. When I ask churches, so what do you want to look like in 5 years? The answer that I most often get is, oh, if only our Sunday school classrooms were full again. So we look at the past, we look to the past to plot the future. R.S. Thomas, who's a wonderful Anglican poet, writes in his poem, The Bright Field, he says, life is not hurrying after a receding future, nor hankering after an imagined past. It is a turning aside like Moses to the miracle of the lit bush, which is the eternity that awaits you. It is a turning aside like Moses, the epiphany that Moses had in the lit bush, the place where he encountered God. So where do we find these answers? Where do we find what we are looking for? Well, the second question is this. Rabbi, where are you staying? Now, in that moment, in the lesson, they're wondering where they can go to sit at his feet a little bit more and discover what it means to follow him. But if we lift that out and ask the question of ourselves today, if we ask the questions that these would-be disciples asked of Jesus, we might ask, if you have the answer to these questions, if you have what we are looking for, where can we go to find you? Where can we go to find you? Well, a couple of weeks ago, we read the prologue from the Gospel of John. You remember it? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became and dwelt among us. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, full of grace and truth. I'm told that that word dwell means literally to pitch one's tent. I love that, because you can picture a camper, nailing down the tent pegs. Do we even do that anymore? Among the trees of a forest, right? And right in the middle of creation. Pitches one's tent. So here's the thing, is that God pitches God's tent right here, right now, right here, in this sacred space, in this town. God pitches God's tent in the halls of power and in the halls of prisons. God pitches God's tent in beautiful mansions and under the bridges in Springfield where those experiencing homelessness find shelter. God pitches God's tent in the ruins of Aleppo and in the very boats that refugees take to try and get through the stormy seas to a place of safety. God pitches God's tent everywhere there is humanity, in its mess and in its glory. Everywhere you find creation, there has God pitched God's tent. So where do we find God? Right here. And in the place where somebody who looks entirely different than we do, nationally, geographically, culturally, racially, language-wise, linguistically, sexually, the person in the farthest corner away from where you feel like you are, that's where God pitches God's tent as well. So what does that mean, if that is where God has pitched God's tent? And Jesus says, come and see. Come and see where I live among you. Come and see where I live in places that you might never imagine. Come and have your expectations shifted of where I am and who I am and what that means. Come and see. So here's the thing that I was realizing as I was working on this. We are epiphany to each other. We might be filled with the radiance of Christ's glory, as the collect said this morning. We are the ones where someone might come and see the presence of God, because we shine with the radiance of Christ's presence. Right? Teresa of Avila says, Christ has no hands but yours, no feet but yours, no voice but yours, because we are the body of Christ in the world. We are the body of Christ in the world. So we are the presence of Christ. We are the ones, we are the place where people can find God, and you are, and I am. As we gather together and we celebrate this Eucharist, and Jesus says, come and see, come to the table. It is not just the bread and wine that's consecrated every week on the table, some object. We are consecrated again and again as this body of Christ. And we are sent out to be signs of Christ's presence in the world. That's what Jesus invites us to come and see. This isn't something that's just for our own spiritual self-satisfaction. This is for the life of the world. This is to be Christ's body in the world. It seems to me that these two questions, what are you looking for and where are you staying? Where have you pitched your tent, Lord? And the invitation from Jesus could be the pattern of our living and the pattern of our praying in this season of Epiphany and all the time. Because we are called to raise our deepest longings up to God, the shallow ones and the deep ones. We are called to raise those up so that Jesus can give us eyes to see eyes to see and expectation shifted to see where he is in the world and where what we long for in a most deep way might be found. So don't be surprised if you take this on and you begin your prayer by saying, Lord, today what I really long for is security. What I'm looking for is security. And Jesus may respond, here's where I'm dwelling. I've pitched my tent among those who know food insecurity, or housing insecurity, or health insecurity. And the way you find security is to be Christ to them. Don't be surprised if you say, Lord, really today what I really need is some comfort. But here's the thing, is we know comfort because if we woke up with shoes on our feet, well, you probably didn't wake up with shoes on your feet. You had shoes you could put on your feet, and food on the table, and a roof over your head, and access to transportation, you are more comfortable and wealthier than 95% of the rest of the world. And so God may shift that expectation of more comfort to gratitude and the ways in which we can offer comfort and be the radiance of Christ's glory to someone else. And we can be that epiphany. Don't be surprised if Jesus says, come and see, when you said, Lord, really today I need forgiveness. If Christ says, I've pitched my tent with someone that you need to forgive. Look there, come and see. Come and see. Well, this Epiphany season is a wonderful time to ask these two questions and to have them be lively voices in our life of prayer and in our life together and our life in this world. So I invite you to wonder, what are you looking for? I invite you to wonder, where is God dwelling? Where has God pitched God's tent in a place that you have not looked before? And I invite you to answer Jesus' invitation to come and see, to come and be the presence of Christ in this world and someone else's life all the time. Amen.
Amen.